What's up, everyone? This week on the pod, I have Brett from Ignite, and this was awesome. He was super generous with his time, and anyone that knows me knows that in the '90s, easily my favorite California hardcore bands were Ignite and Powerhouse. So this was super rad. Um, yeah, he was super generous with his time. We went through everything, and I hope you enjoy the interview. Please support the podcast by giving me a like, a rating, or a review wherever you listen to podcasts. That stuff's really important. And if you could spread the word with all your friends, repost this on social media, et cetera, et cetera. Text a buddy, say I enjoy this podcast if you do. Also, if you would like to go the extra mile, you can go to patreon.com/185 miles south and become a monthly contributor. And these are the people that keep the podcast alive. I love them to a man and woman. They really do keep it alive. So please consider doing that. And let's get on with the pod.
"185 Miles South", a hardcore punk rock podcast.
All right, this week on the pod, we have Brett from Ignite. Welcome.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, and full disclosure, I mean, Ignite was my favorite hardcore band in the '90s, so definitely for California, along with Powerhouse. So
Nice. Good friends of ours.
yeah, you guys did a fair amount of shows with them.
We did Europe in '01, and then we did a bunch of one-off shows, some West Coast stuff. I think we even went and did Mexico with them at one point. Not a full tour, but like just a show down in, I think it was Tijuana. Yeah, we did our fair share. Good guy.
Yeah, and one of the most underrated bands ever. You know, I think that just kind of maybe a casualty of when stuff doesn't come out on vinyl. Sometimes it kind of gets left behind. You know.
Yeah, they never really had a home as far as a label that I thought would do them justice of what they should have, where they should have been, because they were. I thought they were in competition with anybody out there that was doing that style, and they just didn't get the exposure that a lot of the other bands did, just because they were either on a Victory or whatever at that time.
Yeah, total shame. But anyway, let's get into Ignite, and actually, we should go to pre-Ignite.
Nice.
Did you do any bands before you did Ignite?
Just like a high school band, which was just like that wasn't a punk band at all. It was more of like kind of a dark kind of gothy kind of band, like a Joy Division kind of sounding band, but nothing that ever had a release. And then when I met Joe Foster, that's me started working on songs together. We were actually kind of played for a minute in another band. Actually, we kind of joined that band for a short time in like '92 or '93 before we started actually writing songs for Ignite.
Yeah, and how did you meet Joe Foster?
I met Joe Foster from one of the bands that I did before. He was friends with one of my singers, and he was gonna maybe play guitar for us in that band. And then we reconnected like a few months later when he was looking for a bass player to add to that band, Mad Parade. So just met him once, and then 6 months later he got my number from somebody, and then reconnected with me and played in that band for a little bit, and then we started writing songs together.
Yeah, and were you aware of like his previous catalog, like the Unity stuff?
You know what? I was pretty not aware of anything hardcore before I started playing with him. I had the Salad Days 7-inch on tape from a buddy from high school, and then my punk the music that I listened to in the punk world was more like Pistols, Ramones, Clash, that kind of stuff, more the major label 70s punk.
Yeah, first one.
But I had no idea about anything like really hardcore outside of a few tapes I'd gotten from buddies in high school with like Minor Threat and a few bands, but nothing about the scene in general.
Okay, so he recruits you to to do Ignite? Had they already like jammed and they were just looking for a bass player? Like, is the demo already fully formed?
So me and Joe started. We played in that band Mad, played for like 2 months, and then we quit and wanted to start our own thing. So me and him and a drum machine started Ignite.
Oh my god!
Yeah, so we just would get together 2 or 3 times a week. And he was doing a lot of overseas modeling at that point. So he'd be gone to Japan for a couple months and come home, and we'd do work on music, and then he'd go to Europe or something, come back. So that first year that I met him, he was back and forth overseas, and in between we were working on music just with a drum machine. And then we brought in Joe Nelson because Foster had known Nelson previously through just the scene in general.
Yeah.
So,
do any of the demos exist still of the drum machine stuff?
I have all that stuff.
Oh, I'm gonna be on you like a cheap suit, Brett. I'm sorry.
Some of them are songs that ended up on the first, few releases. Some of them never turned into anything. Some of the music we kept and turned into different songs, and then a couple songs, whole complete songs, they just went away because they just couldn't fit.
I bet it sounds really neat though, because Joe Foster does such a good job of like hitting like kind of like dark chords and so forth. Like it's very like TSOL influenced, and so with like the drum machine, it probably gives it a real vibe.
It sounded like Adolescence, to be honest.
Oh, that's so cool.
Like Ignite. It didn't sound like Ignite too much. The first stuff we did with the drum machine, because we weren't really sure which type of beats to use, and so everything was a little bit more straightforward, not really the gallopy fast beat. So yeah, it's a little bit more Adolescent sounding than Ignite, the early music anyway.
Yeah. So eventually you put together a demo.
Yeah.
And that's 1993. And
yeah, we did that in '93. We got Casey. It was me, Joe Foster, Joe Nelson, and the drum machine, and then they had run into, and Gavin was actually playing with Gavin Oglesby at the time. So there was 4 of us and a drum machine, and then Gavin had run into Casey Jones, I think at Zed Records in Long Beach, and we started jamming with Casey, and that worked out. So yeah, that was the first 5 of us, and then we started actually recording like an actual 4-track demo at the rehearsal place.
Yeah, and these songs out the gate like are songs that would be Ignite classics for the first like 5, 6, 7 years of your career. Like the demo has Ash Return, Distant, Slow, Should Have Known, Far Away.
Yep, exactly.
Some
of those were 2 or 3 of those were drum machine songs, and then like Ash Return. I think Ash Return was the first song we wrote that wasn't one of the drum machine songs in the rehearsal room.
Yeah, did you write the bass line or did Joe?
Oh yeah, I wrote that.
All right, one in the win column for Brett.
Yeah, that was it was interesting because I just didn't want to play root notes, and I mean, coming from kind of that Joy Division, Peter Hook kind of world, it was like I wanted to play high bass lines, high runs over. Like if Joe was playing a G chord, I just didn't want to play a low G. I wanted to play like a moving, like high bass note thing to kind of get a little bit of the Joy Division-y feel into the music. And then Joe would always go away from writing full chords into like, different riffs and stuff. So with my like bass line kind of being high and melodic, and his kind of like crunchy kind of chords that he was using, we kind of came up with our sound pretty quick.
Yeah. And is this the only thing that you do with Joe Nelson?
Is this the only thing that? What was that?
Is this the only recording you do with Joe Nelson? Is this like the same recording that goes on the Scarred for Life?
No, we did. So we did the drum machine demo, then we did the 4-track demo, then we went into Moon Song Studios out in Riverside, and we did the which was just going to be the 7-inch, but then it turned into a full length because we got an offer to do a tour in Europe, and Lost and Found Records wanted to put something out, but they didn't want to put out an EP; they wanted to put out a full length. So we needed to go into the studio and finish a few more songs. So that's when Nelson's song was on Scarred for Life.
Okay,
the last 3 songs he's on yet. So there's actually 3 different sessions with Nelson.
Okay. Yeah, no, just looking at the discography for 94 is so wild because you get a year but you don't get a month. And you guys put out so much stuff. It's kind of that's why I need your help here. So
so when we did the Where They Talk 7-inch, that was when Randy was singing.
Right.
And we actually recorded.
That's after Joe leaves.
Joe
Lee.
joins the band. Yeah, Joe starts playing with us. We do a demo with him, and then he's always out on the road with Quicksand,
Right.
because he's friends with those guys. So he's touring around with those guys, and they get the Rage Against the Machine tour, and he's like, I can't stay home to do, just a band when I can go do this big tour. So he was in and out a lot. So then he had kind of recruited Randy to fill the spot, and I loved it with Randy. I thought it was great. I loved what he brought to the table, what he sang, but it just wasn't his bag. So he stuck around for probably 6 months.
Okay, so he's just in the band for 6 months, because that 7-inch is fucking awesome. The Where They Talk 7-inch. And is Ringside self-released, or is that one of your buddies?
That's our buddy Evan, who's good friends with Joe Nelson. We just basically used his imprint just to have something to put it on, but we paid for the pressing and did it all ourselves.
Yeah. And you got the song Turn on there, which is like one of the greatest songs ever. I remember
that was one of my favorite early songs as well.
Yeah, I remember when it was like kind of getting pulled out of your set list, and it was disappointing. It's like, oh, that song's going. It's not going to come back, I don't think. Because it's so perfect and classic. It's like, I don't know. It's just kind of a no-brainer to always be there. But of course, people evolve.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, the total perfect song. So then you do a couple splits. Also, is this just because you're going to Europe so much out the gate? Do you how many times do you go to Europe in '94?
So once we go in August, but it's I'd never toured before.
Okay.
We started off this band with a European tour. We did local shows. We probably played like 10 local shows, and then when the guy who owned Lost and Found Records in Germany caught wind of the band, and the way he found out about it was Gavin was over in February of '93 with No for an Answer, their first European tour,
okay.
and he meets up with the guy from Lost and Found, and he asks Gavin, "Oh, anything new coming out of Orange County?" And Gavin said, "Oh, well, I'm actually doing this band with Joe from Unity and Casey from No for an Answer and whatnot." And he was super interested right off the get go. So he said, "Send me some songs." So Gavin sent him a couple songs for us, and he
shit himself.
Found out that we were in the. Well, yeah, he found out we were in the studio, and he's like, "Look, I can get if you guys can go in and record more songs, I can get you on probably a tour with either Sick of It All or Slapshot in the summer, and we'll put a full length out. Are you guys in?" And I mean, we're like playing like local shows for nobody, and then somebody calls you and tells you, "Hey, you can go to Europe, do 2 months tour on a tour bus with one of these bands, and do you guys want to do it?" And it was like, "Are you kidding me?" So we scrambled, finished the Scarred for Life, added a few more songs to make it a full length, and we didn't even have a singer because Nelson was gone, Randy was out,
right.
And we just had Joe finish it so we could put something out, but we didn't have a singer at that point. So, and we agreed to do the tour. We were like, full steam ahead, let's go do it. We'll just figure it out. We'll get a singer before summertime, and so that's how Scarred for Life came to be. Not just the Where They Talk 7-inch, it came into a full length because of the tour offer, and it was all really quick. It was like it happened like in like the whole thing from recording to being on tour happened within like 6 months.
Yeah, and there's also a Slapshot split and a Battery split, both on.
Yeah, so the Slapshot split was just basically a tour promo 7-inch.
Sure.
And then the next year when we came back, the same thing, the Battery. We didn't tour with them, but they wanted to put another split out. Gotcha. Pressing that label was pressing anything and everything they could get their hands on at that time.
Yeah. I mean, they're raging right then. So how do you come across Zoli? How do you meet him?
Zoli is discovered by Gavin as well. Not discovered; they knew each other from the scene and going to shows. And Zoli's brother and Gavin. I think it was like in May or June of '94. Gavin's up at the Viper Room, I think it was, seeing the band Wool, Pete Stahl's band, and runs into Zoli at that show and. Says, "Hey, what are you up to?" And he goes, "Nothing, I'm whatever." He was doing some acoustic solo stuff at the time. And he kind of explained the situation. "Look, we got a European tour all lined up. We got an album done. We need a singer." And yeah, that's so Zoli. They had known Casey and Gavin had known Zoli for years. I don't think Joe had ever met him before. But yeah. So he he came down, long hair, full beard, like long beard, hair down to his waist. And we had just been in the process of trying out like 10 guys, and nothing was working. It wasn't even close. Like we were just get somebody in the ballpark. And then Zoe walks in, and we play like probably 30 seconds of Ash Return and stopped. And it was like, all right, you want to do this? Because it was obviously he could sing in time. He was on key, and and we didn't even know his range at that point. But it was like, and he was. It was kind of funny because he didn't really believe us. He's like, "Oh, what do you mean? I got the gig? Well, if you want it." We're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay." And he kept calling us all that week, like, "Is this for real? Because I got some stuff coming up. Like, I'll do this if you guys are really doing this. Like, you guys aren't trying anybody else out." And we're like, "No, this is like, you want this?" And it was funny. So I didn't expect him to cut his hair or cut his beard. And like at the third practice, he showed up with a shaved head and no beard.
Did he have any idea what he was going to sound like before he belted?
No. And I pulled up. He was sitting in his 68 VW bus in front of our rehearsal room with his dog sitting shotgun, with his hat on backwards and long hair. And I looked over and I was like, oh, I was like, this isn't gonna, like, it just, I don't know. We had just tried out like 10 guys, and none of them, they all were terrible. And then he came in, grabbed the mic and started wailing on the song. Yeah. And, of course he's kind of flexing a little bit because he wants to prove he wants to go to Europe, wants to do this tour. So he's like screaming and singing, and we're just like, holy mackerel, like, this is incredible. So, so that's how we got Zoe into the band, and we left like 7 weeks later for Europe.
Yeah, and how did that go over? What was that like, that first tour?
Well, like I said, that was my first tour, so I had no expectations of what anything was going to be like. Didn't know how to pack for a tour, and just when we got the routing, waiting for the fax to come into. Was it Revelation at that time? No, we weren't. That was before Rev. Conversion Records. We got no, it wasn't even Conversion. It was just somebody's mom's work. We were waiting to get the fax, and we saw the dates, and it was like 56 shows in 58 days.
Oh my God.
And but we were just like, okay, I don't know, is this how it works? I guess so. So we didn't know, and a lot of bands still tour like that, but we had no idea that was like a lot of shows and not many off days. But it didn't really matter because we were pretty naive to touring, because Casey never really toured in No for an Answer that much. Chris Bratton mostly did like a lot of the touring that they did. Unity never really toured. So Zoe had never really been in a band before. I mean, I think he did some stuff, but none of us were road dogs. None of us had really done tours.
Right.
So when we got out to Europe, and we fly into Berlin, and we called the booking agent, and we're in the wrong city. We're supposed to fly into Frankfurt. I mean, there was no communication, no emails. It was like, so they got to send a van to come get us and drive us from Berlin to Frankfurt to where the bus is picking everybody up. And it was pretty surreal. It was like 24 hours of just like staying awake, and then finally getting to the Frankfurt airport, and the Slapshot guys show up. The bus shows up, and it's a piece of crap, the bus. It's an old city bus, Austrian city bus converted into a bus with beds in it. And the back door to the bus, the back door to the side door still has those big like rods on it, but they couldn't take those off, so the rods went through those bunks. So you had to sleep. Whoever had those bunks had to sleep like around those weird the door rods, and there was the bathroom. The toilet was just sitting on the floor, and it would just fill up, and then the driver would have to go pick it up with his hands and dump it. Well, on nights where everybody was drinking and it was long nights, it would fill up, and it would turn left, and all the pee would spill out of it and run down the hall.
Oh, God.
And it was pretty gross, but we didn't know, and it was just like, cool, this is awesome. So we got into the bus and headed to Sweden for our first show, which wasn't a club show. It was a giant festival with Blur, Midnight Oil. On our stage was like Refused, No Fun at All, us, Slapshot. So it was like 40,000 person festival was our first show.
Holy
And
cow.
we were playing the side stage, of course, but
Sure.
there was like 5,000 or 6,000 people watching us for our first show in Europe. And I mean, from there, we just went, this is this is amazing. We got to take advantage of this. So we just tried to kill it every night because we knew if we got, some good reviews and people liked us, we could come back. So,
Yeah. What was the average show like, though, on the tour?
I mean, we played some squats in East Germany, which was not obviously East Germany then, but it was the eastern part of Germany. We played some squats for like 200 people, but a lot of the shows were like 500, 600 to 1,000, and then whatever festivals we played. There was a few like indoor festivals, like big kind of warehouse type shows, and then that first festival we did in Sweden. And but most of the shows were just typical club shows.
Yeah.
500, 600, 700 cap rooms, up to House of Blue size places, a couple of them.
Yeah, that's amazing out the gate, though. And it just has to,
I mean, yeah.
it has to give you just a rush of confidence, right? Which Ignite had, like, from the time I would have started seeing you, which would have been like 96. Like, you guys are just such a pro band, and it has to be just a lot of that.
It was cool because we just recognized the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, okay, we were at home in California playing to nobody, trying to get on shows. And now we're playing in front of a ton of people every night. Let's just try and win them over. Let's try and kill it. Let's try and beat Slapshot every night, Let's try and make it so we can come back ASAP. And there was just, you could just tell there was a ton of opportunity there. And we wanted to take advantage of every second of it, every piece of it. So we were just like busting our butts and tried to just like kill it every night.
Yeah, well, Slapshot's touring on Blast Furnace, so you can beat him every night. You can do that. It's not
Dude,
the
band the band they had together was really good. They had this guy Barry. Yeah, this guy Barry, drummer, total pro. He was like fast tone sound guy and just a kind of a metalhead drummer, really good. And Mike Bowser was like a grunge kid and just a really good. I mean, the lineup was solid. Like we were like. I remember playing our first show with them at that Sweden festival going, oh man, we just killed it. And then they came on. I went, oh, okay. Like these guys are a lot better than us. We're going to have to try and bust our butt. So,
well, they were seasoned, right? I mean, like that was their circuit. Like I never saw Slapshot until like a couple years ago. They just never they never came to the West Coast. Like, why would they? Their East Coast is just as close to go to Europe as it is to come to us.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
So
they had been doing it for a while, and we were still trying to figure out what amp sounded good live and what, we didn't know how to. It's a lot different when you're sitting in your bedroom playing your bass or your guitar, and then you get on stage and you got to crank a Marshall half stack or a Ampeg full stack, up to get it to sound where it sounds good on stage. And there's an art to that for sure, of getting a tone and figuring out how to make your band sound good live. So that was definitely something that we kind of got thrown into the fire on. We just had to figure it out.
Yeah, that's so cool. So you come back and then you do the first recording with Zoli, which is the In My Time 7-inch. Is that correct?
So the first tour ends, last show in Germany, and the Lost and Found guys kind of want to strike while the iron's hot. So he goes, hey, why don't you guys take a train? Because we were all staying an extra month in Europe just to go vacation. Because we had these 90-day tickets. So he goes, hey, why don't you guys take a day off, get on a train, and come to Bremen, Germany, where Lost and Found label was. He's like, I'll put you in the studio, and we'll do your next release tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we said, yeah, sounds good.
That's right. I actually wrote that down. Recorded at Lost and Found. So.
Yeah, and that was a day and a half after the tour ended, and we recorded the In My Time EP in 22 hours, I think. We had one day to do it. And again, not knowing any difference of how things are supposed to happen, can you guys record 5-6 songs in a day? Yeah, sure, why not? And so, I mean, there's vocals and everything. So we recorded all that. We started at like noon and ended at like 10 a.m. the next day.
Yeah, it's amazing that his voice is holding up, huh? After like that whole tour.
Well, at that point, he was so dialed in with using it. It was so warmed up over doing singing for 2 months.
Yeah.
That he could have sang all night. And it was, and plus we're 22. No, 23 at that point.
Okay.
So it's like, it didn't, it wasn't like there wasn't anything factoring into wear on the body, especially coming off like a 2-month tour where we've been playing every night.
Yeah.
So we did the MI Time 7-inch in 22 hours.
Yeah, and this
EP.
This 7-inch is great. The 7-inch comes out on conversion. They do a 10-inch picture disc and a CD on Lost and Found.
Yeah, the Lost and Found came out first, and we were not happy with the mixes, and we took the rough mix from tape, just the audio tape we had, and made the conversion release.
Okay.
Off of just So that came out a few months later, and then quite a few years later, they did that picture disc.
Okay.
Yeah. So
cool.
That was kind of the process on that.
Yeah, and then so you come back, and then do you see like the Ignite popularity growing at this time now that you have releases out and you're playing around in Southern California and so forth?
Well, so when we got back in the end of '94, nothing was released in the States yet for us. It was only the Scarred for Life in Europe, and it was an import here. So we didn't have a domestic release.
Right.
So we brought home a bunch, as many as we could, a couple hundred of the Scarred for Life. But at that point, it didn't really represent the band because it was Joe and Randy, and now we have Zoli.
Right.
But we need to get music out there. So we're selling these CDs that we brought home, a couple hundred of them, to Vinyl Solution, to Zeds, to sell, just to get the name out there. And we didn't have the In My Time CD available yet. So we started playing shows at the end of '94. And but to answer your question, yeah, you could definitely tell people were doing their homework and getting the releases, buying the imports and stuff, because one of the first shows we played after we got back, compared to the show we played before we left when nobody was there, and then 4 months later, we get back and play a show, and it was a pretty full show, and people knew all the words to the songs, and it's like, oh, okay, this feels like Europe. This is awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, and so the next year you do Call My Brothers.
Yeah,
and most of these songs are already written. There's not too much new for Call My Brothers, but it's like you go in and you do a cohesive LP with Zoli singing everything.
Yep.
What do you remember about the process of recording this record?
We had a lot of songs. There was a few songs that weren't finished that we did finish, like 50 in a Month and a couple of the other songs. I'm trying to think what else wasn't released.
Maybe Black Light?
That song. No, that was on In My Time.
It was.
Yeah, and maybe it was just 50 in a Month. But we went in and there was like, it just felt like there was like loose releases everywhere. We needed one solid release for the States with everything on it. And we went in and wanted to retrack everything, get a good recording for Call My Brother. So we went into for the record with Jim Monroe, and that didn't take 22 hours. That took quite a long time.
Yeah.
Because they're in the middle of doing other records, so it's like, hey, we have 5 days here, and then you guys can come back. And we were like, okay, this is weird. But that was cool because that was the first time where you could go home and sit on recordings and listen to rough mixes and make changes and write, vocal parts and write guitar parts to songs instead of just trying to like spit something out in like one day in the recording studio, how we had done before. So Call My Brothers was cool. And then it was nice to just get that out in the States, and then that also got imported to Europe, and it was nice to have like an official release out so we could actually tour on something in America that was available to people.
Yeah, it comes out on Conversion Records in 1995. It sounds best on clear vinyl, and not displayed. But so do you tour the States then? Is that your first time doing it in '95?
That's when we go out and hit the States hard in the summer of '95. We go do a big run with Earth Crisis, and then we go do another run with Integrity, and we played. It was Guilt. The band Downer was on part of it. Damnation was on part of it, and we did it was a full run, and which is interesting because those were like some of the bigger hardcore bands of the time. Like we were getting the full push from Victory. There was nobody at any of those shows. Yeah. I mean,
once they leave their little pockets.
Yeah, once you're outside of Chicago, New York, there was like 12 people in Atlanta, and they were throwing milk at Earth Crisis while they were playing, and it was it wasn't like, oh man, back in the day when the shows were all giant. That was back in the day, and there wasn't anybody at those shows. The big shows. Louisville was great because I think that's what Guilt was from. And some of the other bigger A markets were good, but for the bulk of it, you go like play Alabama, you go play some places in Florida, and there was nobody at these shows. But we did it. We went out. We had to do it. Jersey, New York, Philly, Washington D.C. were all awesome. Those shows were all 300, 400, 500 kids. But it was small. The scene was pretty small, and we did 2 full runs that year, and then we ended up hooking up with Sick of It All in December and did. Now that was a real run. That was awesome when we did like 10 shows with them on the East Coast. That was the first time we got to play to like some bigger rooms full of people that knew our stuff and were appreciative of like hardcore music in general. You know what I mean? So you'd be going and playing shows where people know your stuff and they want to mosh and stage dive and stuff. So the Sick of It All tour was amazing. That was at the end of '95.
Okay. And before we move on from Call My Brothers, I just want you to look back on it and where do you think it stands? Like, do you believe that it's like a classic American hardcore LP? Do you believe it's as good as I believe it is?
That album to me represents definitely a specific, unique time for Ignite because of the lineup that was different then, and the way we wrote songs back then was completely different than how we write songs now. We didn't think about song structure. We didn't think about, the chorus has to go twice and we got to make sure this part's catchy or, kind of as you start thinking about songs and certain pop sensibility that you just get used to from listening to music. Back then it was just part A, part B, part C, part D. And whatever was cool, we stuck with. And then we just put vocals on top of the music that we thought sounded cool. And so that was a kind of a unique time for us as far as on the musician side of it for the songwriting, which makes it special because some of the stuff that we wrote was just, it doesn't make any sense when you look at the song on paper, but it works because it sounds cool. And a lot of those songs were like that. We just liked certain parts, so we wanted to play them, and parts we didn't, we clipped, and it was a different way to songwrite. It was we were younger, we didn't, it was just we did whatever we thought felt good at the time.
No, I mean, there's so many brilliant little tiny things on the record, like going to the verse riff slow on Ash Return before you kick in fast.
Right.
And that's so gnarly. Like I remember being in the crowd and these things happening, it's like, that's just, when you do that riff slow, it's like, oh shit, like now's the time. Like it's coming.
It's building.
Yeah. So it's
exactly.
like, even if on paper it's not making sense, like you really are, because what you're doing is you're pushing the boundaries of straightforward hardcore in such like an artistic but not poetic way, I guess. Like,
right.
And there's just so many layers painted on this record, like with Joe's playing, and you're playing, and Casey Jones like doing like the off time type stuff, and of course Zoli's voice. I mean, this 4-piece is with sticking in like the boundaries of like straightforward fast hardcore. It's like it's almost as far as you can take it in every direction, which is what makes it so like magical.
Yeah, Casey was very, very creative, and he would come up with really cool stuff, and he would have cool ideas for music too. He wouldn't, he didn't know notes. He wouldn't say, go to the C sharp minor there. He would just, hey, I'm hearing something like this. Can you guys, so, and his drum beats were really cool. He always came up with, he was listening to a lot of Helmet, Sensefield, and his whole background was, total hardcore. So he had that in his repertoire of knowledge for all the fast beats from, Bad Brain, Scream, Minor Threat, all that stuff that he grew up on. But then, he got into really heavy stuff. Tyus was listening to a lot of, like I said, Helmet, and so he was trying to incorporate all these like heavier beats and these halftime parts into the stuff, and we thought it was really cool because I really liked it because I didn't come from the fast beat world. The stuff that I had written and played in was all like kind of more melodic and dark, and then you throw Joe's like kind of interesting chords and stuff over it, and then also just the hardcore chords. It made our sound. It made our kind of unique sound. And it was a lot of fun because there was a lot of discovery for us at that point of incorporating these sounds that we like from these other bands, and like Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream had just come out. There was some really cool riffy stuff on there and cool bass stuff. There was just all this really cool music going on in the underground and the mainstream, from Nine Inch Nails to all the Seattle stuff, which had elements of punk rock and heaviness in it. So it was, I don't know, it was fun. It was fun listening and writing music back then because all this stuff was new coming out and you were getting inspired like every day. And then working with those guys, Joe and Casey are both really creative guys. So it was cool. And then Zoli, singing on top of it, making it sound like Ignite, it was a good team. That was like chapter 2 for me. Chapter 1 was the Nelson phase of the band, and then the next chapter was the 4-piece with Zoli and Joe and Casey and me.
Yeah, and so then also in '95, the Family CD comes out, and it's just Calling My Brothers, but it's a different sequencing on Lost and Found, correct?
Well, it's Calling My Brothers minus In My Time,
okay,
and a different sequencing. Yeah, because all those 6 songs had already come out, so it didn't really make sense to put them on. So we put those 10 or 11 songs, whatever it was, on the Family CD that made up the Calling My Brothers minus In My Time.
Okay, and then this is the last thing you do with Lost and Found. Can we just talk about the overall relationship with them? Because like you were one of the only bands that was like with them. Like they weren't bootlegging you. You were like kind of they were putting you out legitimately. And it seems like you have a pretty good relationship with them.
We had an okay relationship with them. I mean, they were, if you grabbed any magazine in Europe I'm talking about from a magazine from the airport or a zine on a table at a show, they were advertising in everything. They were marketing and pushing harder than any label. And those guys loved the music and believed in it because we met them. We went to their warehouse. They wanted to take pictures, and they were fans of the scene in general. But I mean, they were bootlegging a lot of stuff, and I think they were just making a ton of money and had the means to market it. So, I mean, we never got paid from them ever.
Okay.
But they pushed us harder than any other label would have. So it's like, what do you want, a few $1,000s in royalties and not get pushed, or do you want a label to push the crap out of your band everywhere across Europe wide and help make your band big? So, obviously it's smarter to take, luckily, and, just by circumstance, we were on that label, and they pushed us. And, like I said, they wanted to get us right in the studio right after that tour while we were in Germany and record that EP, take advantage of that, get more out. Because I think they could see the writing on the wall that bands weren't going to stick around with them forever. So that they wanted to take advantage of every opportunity that they had to put music out. So there wasn't really any bad blood. I mean, we didn't, and then here's another thing that they did do, which is basically like payment. When we got to Europe on the Slapshot tour, they sent us like 200 or 300 CDs for free to sell, and we were selling them for like 20 Deutschmarks, which is like $12 or $13 at the time, and all that was free. So we got paid that way. But we never got a check from them, and we never knew how many CDs they sold, and we never knew what the value of our sales really was. I'm sure they made quite a bit of money, and in hindsight, I'm actually kind of okay with it, the way things turned out.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely helped you get your footing as a band.
Yeah.
So, okay, in '96, you do the Past Our Means EP, 12-inch EP, and this is with Rev. So you get to join the Revelation family, which is like a real honor for any hardcore band.
Yeah, it was cool because the catalog spoke for itself, and we were actually still signed to Conversion. I think maybe 1 or 2 releases, and Dennis moved away. The label kind of went under, so we had met with Jordan, and he was interested in putting out a release, or actually with a contract we signed 3 albums with Revelation. So, and it was cool because they had a bigger reach and they had a bigger brand, and we talked to a few different labels at that time. We talked to Roadrunner, and they didn't quite pull the trigger. We tried to talk to Fat Wreck. We tried to talk to Epitaph, and we didn't get any bites from them. So it made sense for us to do the Revelation thing.
Yeah, and again, just awesome record. Of that era of Ignite. Same year, you do the Good Riddance split, which is just the song "Past Our Means" plus the Bad Brains cover, band in DC.
Yep.
I mean, great to
that
hear.
That was recorded in the same session there. Obviously,
it was recorded on the Past Our Means session.
Yeah, and it's now actually included on the Past Our Means, the re-release of it, the current one.
Oh, all right.
Jordan, they redid the artwork a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and added that song. So we had to go get that mastered and have it added to the track listing. So I think on the 12-inch and the CD it's on, or maybe it's not on the 12-inch. I know it's definitely on the CD, the Bad Brain song. And that was similar to the Slapshot 7-inch that was put out as a tour promo, basically, to push the Good Riddance Ignite tour that we were doing that year.
Yeah, and by then the shows are. I mean, that's a great band for you to tour with in '96. That's perfect band to tour with. Do you remember all those shows being pretty good?
Yeah, they were. We actually we had to join the tour like a week and a half late because something happened at home. I don't recall, but we met up and started, I think, in Virginia Beach. We were supposed to start in Texas or Florida. And all the shows were great. They were big. It was fun. That was a fun run of shows with those guys.
Cool. And then, so now the next 4 years are kind of a little strange, right? There's not too much coming out. The Sea Shepherd 7-inch and 10-inch come out. Those are just live recordings.
But those were kind of just. Go ahead.
Well, Joe leaves the band and Casey leaves the band, right?
Yeah. So in '90, we record Past Our Means, and that comes out on Rev, and we go to Europe and do our biggest tour to date in Europe in '96. We take Straight Faced over there, and that was awesome. And then by the summer of '97, I think Casey actually left in the middle of a tour.
Oh wow!
We were on the East Coast, and we were in DC, and we played the Black Cat. I think it was the Black Cat. And the next morning, he gets up when we're getting ready to hit the road to head to Virginia Beach, and just hails a taxi. And I'm kind of like, what is Casey doing? And he climbed out the back of the van too, which was weird. In between the trailer, out the back door, and had his bag, and then hailed a taxi, and then was in a taxi, and I ran over to him. I go, Casey, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going home. He goes, I'm going home. I can't do it anymore. I'm over it. And I go, what are you talking? Wait, no, come on, get out of the. He's like, no, I got to go. I go, well, give me your backpack with all that, because he usually handled all the merch money and stuff, and he was completely out. He was in kind of a bad spot, and he's like, oh, okay, here, just take everything, and he left the tour, and we were in DC, and we had a show that night in Virginia Beach.
Holy cow! So were you able to find a fill-in?
So there was a couple guys from some of the bands we were playing with that could jump in and play a few of the songs, but a kid that we knew said, hey, I got a buddy who goes to Berkeley School of Music, and he's a crazy drummer. He can play with you guys. I go, well, have you ever heard us? He's like, no, it doesn't matter. Hey, just sit down with him for a while. And I sat with this guy in the front seat of the car and showed him the 8-9 songs we were going to play with him, and then we were going to do 4 or 5 other guys. This guy learned all the songs in a half an hour. I just said, I'll just kind of mouth to you what beat it. I go, we have a halftime beat, a fast beat, and there's a straight beat. Those are we could play songs where that will cover everything. And it was kind of funny. So we pulled it off that night, and it wasn't half bad, to be honest, with the guy who'd never heard the song. So then we played the show in Virginia Beach, and then we had 2 days off to get to Florida, and we flew out our buddy Doug, who had played in Vandals and Slapshot and a bunch of bands, and he filled in the rest of the tour for us.
Holy cow! Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, It was a road bump.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's serious road burn to just cut like that.
Yeah, it was wild.
Man, that's crazy. So how do you deal with Joe Foster leaving? Because he was like the main driving force initially and the main songwriter, of course.
Yeah, so I mean, me and him had started together, and it was, and I knew Joe pretty well at that point. Joe's a very unique guy, and he's very intense, and he just had kind of lost the fire to play with the three of us,
Mm-hmm.
and he wasn't enjoying it anymore at that point. That was in February '98, and he just said on our way to the whiskey show, "Hey, this is going to be the last show I play." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, I can't do it anymore. I'm not in the spot where I want to continue on." And he has his reasons and his own basically reasons for leaving that he told me about some of them, but yeah, and so we went and played that show, which that's funny. You sent me the picture with you in the crowd.
Yeah.
The Billy stage guys. I didn't know that picture was from that show.
Yeah. I was able to kind of figure it out because I think I only saw you at the whiskey a couple times. And so it had to have been that show because that wasn't like the AF show, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, were you at the AF show?
I was.
Okay, so I mean, it could have been. You're probably right, though. You'd probably know seeing yourself in the picture because sometimes the pictures I see live, if they're at a venue and you've played it multiple times, it's kind of hard to figure out which year or what night it was. But yeah, that was funny when you sent that picture and I was like, "Oh, you're in that shot."
That was kind of cool. I because I obviously have all your records. I just don't go through everything, and I actually discovered that like kind of late, like maybe 5 years ago. Like what? What the fuck? You know,
That's
but
funny.
Yeah, so funny. But so what are the band conversations like? Like, did you think about calling it quits, or you're just like, we're doing too good right now, we got to replace him no matter what?
So Craig had come in after Casey left, and Doug filled in for that tour, and then we got home, and the first drummer we tried out was Craig, and Craig's like, he's ridiculously talented drummer. The the level of musicianship that he has is gnarly, and so having a drummer, on that level kind of brought the whole band up. I thought we were at that point, at the top of our game when Craig got in the band, and then kind of like you said, it was going really well. And when Joe left, like me and Zoe and Craig didn't have any notions to hang it up at that point. We just thought we should find somebody that was that could play all the stuff and that could write as well, and try and do it. And we talked to Brian, and it was really quick. He was actually at that whiskey show too, and then I think we toured Canada with Pennywise a month later, and he was on that tour with us, and it was seamless. It was awesome. I mean, Brian's a ridiculously talented guitar player as well, so it was like the band got really tight and really good at that point, and I thought, that again, a lot of opportunities were in front of us.
Yeah, and did he come from 1134? Am I remembering that right?
He did. Yeah, he did.
Okay.
He was one of the guitar players in 1134.
Okay. And then there's another thing I remember before Place Called Home came out. I think that there was like a demo circulating for a while. It might have been a year or two before the LP came out. Had like maybe a different version of Veteran. Do you remember like demoing and so forth?
Yeah, so we were on Rev, and we owed them 3 records, and we did an EP, so we still owed them 2 LPs and an EP. And we had gotten management at that time, and they thought it would have been best to try and get on a bigger label. Mm-hmm. So we actually all went and sat with Jordan and said, "Hey, this is what we'd like to do. We'd like to spend this amount of money on a record and marketing." And Jordan was totally, I mean, I'm really good friends with him still, totally down to earth. He's like, "Hey, that's just not in our budget, guys. why don't you guys go see if you can find somewhere else to go, and we can just work something out. And so we started shopping. So we needed a demo to shop. So Jordan was cool enough. He goes, I'll front the demo cost. I'll front the money for the demo for you guys to help you guys shop. And so we went in the studio, recorded Veteran, a couple other songs. So that was, a different version of Veteran. That was like the demo version. And then we started shopping that demo to labels, indies, majors, everything, to see if there was interest out there to try and go somewhere where we could get even a bigger reach than Rev.
Okay, and then you end up landing with TVT.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Sean Roberts over there was our A&R guy, and came from the scene, New York guy, New York hardcore scene, knows all about us. Really excited about the demo, and they signed us to TVT, which was almost basically a major at that point. They had Nine Inch Nails, KMFDM, Seven Dust. They were working with some Snoop Dogg side projects. It felt like a major, but it was still technically an indie. Okay. But and they were super excited. The only reservation we had is that we weren't going to get any label brand recognition from going to a label like TVT. It wasn't going to be like being on Epitaph, where you're just going to be on everybody who's a fan of Epitaph's radar, or Fat Wreck, or Nitro at that time, or a label like that, where you're probably going to get a bunch of people checking you out just because you're on that label. We knew that the TVT move wasn't going to get us that, because I think VOD was on TVT at the time. So it was us and them from our world, and everything else kind of from a bigger world that had nothing to do with us. But they were very excited about the demo, and they were very excited about the band and the record. And the president, Steve Gottlieb, sat down with us and, told us about how he was launching TVT Europe, and he wanted our album to be the first album that came out, so they could come out of the gates with something new, fresh for Europe. And so we were pretty excited about that they were going to push it so hard in Europe, which actually never ended up happening, because TVT Europe ended up never materializing. So that was actually probably, for the Europe's sake, one of the worst moves we could have made. But you can't, when you're sitting there with the president of a label and he's telling you about all these plans, and you guys are going to be we're going to be flying the Ignite flag in Europe, and you guys are going to be the number one band on because you guys already do so well there. It was, you hope that they're telling the truth, or that what they're talking about is going to happen. You have to put your trust in these people, and it happens all the time. It's nothing special. It's not a story that, it happens to bands all the time where, what the label promises doesn't work out. So, in hindsight, it probably would have been better to just do a punk rock label, or a hardcore label for that release. I think it would have got worldwide. It probably would have gotten more interest, more views, more listens.
Do you think that this record fell off a little bit like that? It didn't do as well as you were hoping?
No, pretty much the opposite. It eventually gets licensed in Europe to BMG.
Okay.
And they push it like crazy. It's all over the place in Europe. We're getting on festivals, we're doing tours, we're playing shows. The band grows exponentially in Europe off of the album.
Oh, great.
For us, we thought the songwriting, it was different. It was the next chapter. It was like chapter 3. It was the Brian, Craig, Zoli, Brett chapter of the band, the 4-piece with the 2 new guys. And we were super excited about how the whole thing came out. We thought we put everything into it, and we were really happy with the results. And then you go out and play the shows, and all these people are singing these songs back to you, Run and Veteran and Bullets Included. And we're going on tour in America with the Misfits. We're touring with Bad Religion. We're playing all these really big venues, getting all this exposure. And it was definitely a step up for us on all levels.
Okay. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
It's another good LP. The only knock for any sort of momentum would just be that it came out 4 years after the last release, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That may have hurt a little bit, but yeah, you're back, still full steam ahead at this point. But then again, there's a big break after this record, or tell me if I'm wrong, because Hatebreed put out their first LP and toured for 5 years off it, didn't slow down at all. But between
Totally.
between this record and Darkest Days, there is 6 years. So,
Yeah.
um,
We
did you
we
just
toured.
tour and tour?
Yeah, we did. We toured a ton, and then we actually took a break. We took 2003 off completely.
Okay.
Worked on some side projects. Didn't do anything to do with Ignite. I think that was the only year that we didn't play an Ignite show was 2003 in the history of the band. And yeah, so by the time we kind of regrouped at the end of 2003, and it was 2004, we kind of put a lineup together, the band, because Brian wasn't available to tour. We were bouncing between a couple guitar players. And we got signed to Abacus in 05. So, when then we went into that's 05. And, we started writing Our Darkest Days at that point. So for us, other than the year in 03 where we did tour and downtime, everything else was pretty much tour, push, promote, and then take a year off and then try and get a record deal and write.
Yeah, how do you approach writing for this record? Because it's a big change, but it's a great change, I think.
It was for me. It was the difference was that we didn't really have a guitar player that was full time at the time of the writing. So I started writing for the first time all the songs that I was going to contribute to the album. I wrote on guitar rather than bass.
Okay.
So I was demoing these songs with friends in studios with a drum machine, and I would go in and record a bunch of demos with me playing guitar and bass. Bleeding, Know Your History, Poverty, 3 Years, like all these songs. The first demos were me. So that was the big difference for me on that one, was that I approached it from like a guitar writing standpoint, which was different. And then Brian was kicking in songs. We started working with Nick, who had toured with us previously, but now he was on board with doing the album and doing the future touring. So I think just the collaboration was the biggest change on the writing of Our Darkest Days, because we had quite a few guys and ideas coming together to make these songs for this album. And some of it was demos from previous stuff. Most of it was new. And we just wanted each song to be its own little like kind of masterpiece. We didn't want to finish the record until every song was good. And that wasn't 100% necessarily us. This was Cameron Webb, who came in and was producing the album, who worked a little bit on the post-production of A Place Called Home. We did all the pre-demos with him, but TVT wanted us to go with kind of a bigger name person, so we went with Tom Wilson, who had done Offspring, and they were just doing the Aquabats and that. So Cameron didn't get the chance to do A Place Called Home. So when we approached him about doing Our Darkest Days, he was really excited, because he thought that, he when he was listening to A Place Called Home, he was missing some of the things that he wanted to put his touch on. So we went into, we had all these songs ready for Our Darkest Days. We knew Bleeding was great. We thought the other songs all had potential. And Cameron basically told us it was terrible. He goes, and we're all pumped. We're ready to go record. We're playing in demos. He's like, you guys, this isn't even close. And we're like, what do you, really? And he goes, yeah, go back in the studio for a month and rewrite all this. This part's good. I like this. He's like, keep what you guys want to keep if you're passionate about it. He's like, I'm not going to try and, tell you guys, if you guys absolutely believe in a part, stand up for it and we'll use it. He's like, but these are the parts that I think are terrible. These are the parts that I think are good. So we rewrote and rewrote. And then we were in the middle of recording the album, and he kicked us out of the studio and told us to go back and start writing again because the songs weren't there. So we rewrote that record like 4 times. And finally, towards the end, we were starting to see that what was happening with that record was something special, and that we had what we had thought had nailed it. From what the group of songs that we took to him, Cameron, and what we had towards the end, you could tell that the record was heading in a really cool direction. It was darker. It was heavier at parts. It was fast. Zoe was killing it across the board. We started using tons of like harmonies in the recordings, which we did a little bit on A Place Called Home. Cameron made Zoe sing almost every part of the record in like a high falsetto that he could blend in at parts, and it was just it was an awesome experience to watch that whole thing progress and go from where the demos were to what ended up on the record.
Yeah, in hindsight, it sounds like you appreciate that, but how does your ego take it? Like when he sends you home the second time?
We laughed. It's funny because he's so unique, and he's kind of like the sixth member, and he gets super passionate about it. So he's not just like, "Hey, I need 3 days to work on this social D thing. Go work on something. Get out of here." It's not like that. It's like he's breaking down the songs and goes, "Why are you guys doing this in this section? Why is it doing this?" And we're like, "I don't know, because that's what it feels." He's like, "No, this isn't working." I don't look at it as an ego thing at all. I just look at it as a luxury, actually, of having somebody like that actually listens and cares and puts in the 2 cents of his opinion to make the songs better. At the end of the day, we have to go play it and tour it and live it for the rest of our lives. He doesn't really, because he's on to the next project and working on the next record, but it's awesome to know the kind of effort he puts into it, and I thought it was cool. I thought that was the first time it actually felt like we worked with a producer that actually produced, rather than just twisted knobs and was an engineer.
Sure. And is this your favorite Ignite record?
Yeah, it's mine. Yeah.
I love it. I mean, I hate to be the guy to like the first one or to call them my brothers so much, but this is my second favorite. This is my second favorite record. So I love this one too.
Yeah.
I think
it was a different band, it was Call My Brothers almost feels like it was a different band, and it has its own like coolness about it. And, but I mean, it's the same band. It's the same name. It's Ignite. It's just, the band had to progress because of member changes or change because of member changes. And, that's where we ended up. We ended up with those guys writing those songs, and, it's just, it was a different band at that point,
Yeah, but this is so good and fully formed where, maybe A Place Called Home is you guys are transitioning out of one thing and maybe halfway into the next thing. Like almost like it's an LP, but it's like the idea and where the band at is almost like in another demo stage. So where this is just fully formed great LP.
I think A Place Called Home could have been as good if we had a different producer.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't change anything. We wrote 13, 14 songs, went in there and tracked them. And Tom Wilson didn't change anything on any song. We went in later and changed stuff on our own after we moved on and started working with Cameron at the end and changed a few songs, rewrote some parts. But I think with a producer, that album could have been on par with Our Darkest Days.
Yeah. So
I still think it's one of my favorite Ignite records, Place Called Home, but I don't think it's quite as good as Our Darkest Days.
No, but you guys also haven't done a bad record, so it's fine. The catalog's great. Touring after this, any surge in popularity? Because this is like a little more. I would hate to say radio friendly. I'm just not that. I'm not that versed in like indie music and
Sure.
popular music. But I mean, so to my ear, it's like, oh, these songs might be more palatable if I could put it on in the car with my mom. She'd probably like it.
Totally.
My mom's cool though. But you know what I'm saying? Like, did the popularity grow off this anywhere?
Yeah, a lot everywhere. Okay. I mean, that was got us to probably the level. It's interesting because the band still. It's interesting. The last tour we did last year, we had some shows bigger than we've ever played in some cities. It's been a weird phenomenon. Yeah, that definitely. We started playing main stages at festivals off of Our Darkest Days, where a lot of times most of the punk bands would play the side. Punk and hardcore bands are on the side stage, and then like Sepultura and Motorhead and bigger bands are playing the main stage on these heavier festivals in Europe. And now we're playing the main stage in the afternoon. Some of the medium-sized festivals were headlining. It's just, I think the album just connected with a ton of people. It's still weird when you go on an autograph signing at some festival in Europe and just there's 300 people in line and people are just talking about how Our Darkest Days changed their life. And and how that made us their favorite band. It's still weird when somebody tells you that you're their favorite band because I don't know, that's an odd thing to hear. Because I have my favorite bands and my things, and I grew up listening to Beatles and this and that, and my whole path to music, and it's just funny when it's humbling. It's really cool. But that album got us to that point where I think we connected with a ton of people. There was a lot of songs on that record that just resonated with a lot of people, and there was Live for Better Days, the acoustic song, which kind of opened up something new for us. And it was definitely kind of a turning point for the band. Definitely in Europe, and I think everywhere we go, still a lot of the songs that people want to hear when we ask them what songs they want to hear are the songs off of Our Darkest Days.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm good.
Gotta decline that. All right, to be a total completist, I gotta say, in 07 you do a little side project called I shouldn't say little. You do a side project, Last of the Believers.
Yeah.
On New Age. And how does it feel playing with like a different group of people?
It's different. It's you've been playing with the same guys for so long, and you get in a room with 4 other guys, and it's like starting over, kind of. Not entirely, but it's you're used to playing with a drummer who has certain nuances and stylistic things that you're used to, and then guitar players and writing styles. You get used to playing with the same guitar players for a decade, and you kind of know what each other's going to do, and you're kind of used to playing. And so playing with different, but I think it's good. I think it's good to play with other people. It makes you think. It's a different approach to music, and even though it can still be the same style of music, it's a different feel. So I thought that was a good thing.
Yeah, and
for me as a musician.
Yeah, totally. But do you ever look at the singer and you're like, can you go a little higher? Like it's hard coming from Zoli to anyone else. Like no. Belt it for real, dude. Like hit that a down, right. Hit that a down note.
Yeah, hit that super high note right there.
Yeah.
No, that's just a luxury that I've had. Working with Zoli this whole time was him being able to do freakish things, but that's unexpected from anybody else. I mean, there's not too many people in the world that can sing like Zoli.
Yeah, and again, another little hardcore chapter because you get to put out something on New Age, so that's cool. Shout out Hartsfield.
Yeah, exactly.
And then 09, you do another side project band, Nations of Fire, which you're still doing now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Nations still exists. A couple of the guys live in Oregon. Me and Nick live down here. It's 98% inactive, but there'll be a point where we go play some shows or do something. Again, it's fun. That band, the 4 guys, enjoy being with each other in a van, in a room, in a studio, on the phone. We have a good time. It's very enjoyable group of dudes to play with. So it's always been a lot of fun to do anything Nations of Fire with Chris and Todd and Nick.
Yeah, cool. In 2010, Zoli joins Pennywise. How does that go over with Ignite?
It was really cool. Fletcher calls me after Jim quit, and hey Brett, so I'm just gonna be straight up. We're gonna check out Zoli, and just wanted to get your okay with it first, which I thought was really cool. And then he, of course, then interrogated me for like an hour about everything Zoli. And I took the fifth on like 99% of it. No, just kidding. But
did he ask if he's gonna have to go clean up Pelican shit?
He asked everything across the board. How is he as a songwriter? How is he touring with Bob? And we had toured with Pennywise quite a bit at that point. So
sure.
They're friends. They've been on the road together. Zoli's flown certain places on in between shows with these guys and stuff. But he wants to get in some insights because he's never been in a band with them. So so he basically just said, we're going to try him out. There's no guarantee that he's going to do it, and if he does it, I just want you to know that you guys don't have to stop doing Ignite. And I was like, that's awesome. I go, we're kind of doing the side project anyways. It's Nations of Fire, me and Nick, and I go, make a great record and go out and kill it. Because at that point in 2010, we had toured for 3.5 years on our darkest days.
Wow.
And it was time to take a break. I mean, we went everywhere. We toured 50 countries. We went Southeast Asia. We went Australia. I mean, South America. We did everywhere we possibly could off that record. And we were still getting tour offers that we just said, it was kind of funny because we decided at that point that we were going to start working on the new record. And that's when we actually started demoing new songs for the new record was in at the end of 2009. And we were just like, we can't tour anymore. We got to put something new out. But we just kept getting these offers because people were just Our Darkest Days whole thing was that had done so well for the band. So so it was actually pretty good timing, and he joined the band. And I thought with us taking a break or writing at that time anyway, it probably wouldn't be a bad thing to have our singer singing anyway.
Sure. Yeah, and he does a great job on the record.
Yeah. A lot of people like that record a lot. A lot of Pennywise fans, a lot of Ignite fans. So to me, it was almost like a continuation of kind of where A Place Called Home. It was like, that felt to me, if it was maybe an Ignite record, it would have been the record in between Place Called Home and Our Darkest Days.
Yeah, I would agree.
When I listened to it. But yeah, I thought it was awesome. It was cool. And a lot of people, learned about Zoli being in that band. He was in the band from August 2009 till like 2013. He was in the band for like 3.5 years.
A long time.
Yeah. A full, album cycle, full touring. They did a full touring cycle before he got in the band to work out any kinks and make sure he was the right guy. And, they toured for 1.5 years before they did the record. So yeah, I thought the Pennywise thing was awesome. I thought it was a good thing for Zoli. I thought it was a good thing for Ignite. I thought it would, and the timing of it was perfect.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds perfect. 4 years after the LP comes out and 6 years before your next record. So,
right, totally.
Yeah. 2012, Nations of Fire. You guys do your first LP, Redfield Records, and this is a cool record. How do you feel about it?
It was fun. Again, getting in the studio, recording with those guys is a good time. We got to go out to the blasting room to do the record with that whole crew out there, Jason and Bill and all those guys. So that was a pretty cool recording experience because that is so regimented on a calendar because they're in Fort Collins, Colorado, and you can't work on a recording for a couple weeks and then come back. It's like you go bang it out in the 18 days or the 22 days or however many days you have allotted for it, and then the record, it better be done, and so that part of it was really cool, working with those guys, going out there doing the record, being kind of sequestered for 3 weeks and just doing nothing but recording every day. And then we went up to Europe, did 2 cool tours off that record, played some awesome festivals, played some big shows. It was a all around really cool experience.
The next thing that comes out is also 2012, the Ignite, the live album, Darkest Days Live. And
that was in 2012.
It's kind of cool to do a live record. I mean, I think that's the sign of truly making it.
Making it. That was such a nightmare, that album, or the DVD. We recorded it in 2008, and it took 4 years for that thing to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we recorded that in spring of 2008 in Leipzig, Germany. And by the time we got the edits from the company in Europe, It took forever. We didn't like any of it. We didn't like the audio. So we took the whole thing and took it upon ourselves to do. Brian edited the whole thing. We built a behind the scenes kind of movie to go with it. And that stuff starts taking time. And all of a sudden you're like 12 months, 18 months, 20. It's like, oh my gosh. After it was a year of us, you know, we got all the files and everything. And then it was like 2011 and the thing's still not out yet. And finally we finished it and we were really happy with the final thing. But yeah, it was like, that was a painful process.
Yeah. 2016, you're back doing your next LP, War Against You. How did the songwriting process differ from Our Darkest Days? You guys are just a fully formed machine, right? And just go and knock it out?
No, it wasn't. It was a struggle. Nick quits in the middle of recording.
Okay.
And he's a pretty big songwriter on everything that we're doing. And it starts dragging on. Cameron's in the middle of a ton of projects. We're doing a Motorhead thing, I think a live record with them. No, it was a studio album. It was really disconnected. It didn't feel like there was a lot of, it wasn't fluid, the recording experience on that one. And we had a bunch of demos done that we had, obviously at this point in time, songwriting is getting, everybody has GarageBand. So we're making tons of demos. And that part's awesome. Bouncing songs back and forth from each other. But to me, it just feels like we didn't finish the record.
Okay.
It felt like it was a little bit rushed, even though it took 2 years, a year and a half, however long. It took a long time. From when we started, Nick quit. We kind of had to reassess the whole album, kind of reworking stuff. I just don't think we nailed it like on that one. When we finished the record, it was the first time that I was like, had questions more than answers. Call My Brothers, Past Our Means, Place Called Home, Darkest Days. When we walked out, when we had that final mastering session, I was like, we have something here. This one, I thought there was great moments and I thought there was a ton of potential, but it just didn't feel like that we nailed it as far as what our job was on our side. And I thought that Cameron was a little distracted too at that time, just because of all the stuff on his plate. And I just don't think that we had the focus quite as we did on Our Darkest Days or A Place Called Home or Pastor Means or Palmer Brothers, to be honest.
Yeah. How do you feel about the record?
I like it. I think there's awesome moments. I love a lot of the songs. It's funny when you listen to a record, you hear songs. The biggest always kind of regret that I have on records is not as much the writing or the recording as it is the track listing. You don't sometimes realize which songs are going to be kind of the bangers and which ones are gonna. Just the track listing. So there's
the sequencing is hard for you.
Yeah, exactly. Because I would have resequenced it in a little different way. I think that would have affected the feel of the listening of the record.
We just got to have Lost and Found put it out, and they could be family too.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. Yeah, so I think the record's solid. The track listing bothers me, and I just feel like we didn't finish some of the stuff.
It just feels like the natural follow-up. Like, I don't know what else you would have done. It's so hard to follow on a record like Our Darkest Days, and this sounds like I don't know. Maybe it is like it's the Place Called Home after Call My Brothers. Like, you know, it's kind of the same and but not the one. But it's still really,
right. Yeah,
it's still really good. Like you can't look at A Place Called Home or A War Against You and be like, these aren't good records. Like they're still better than what 90% of other records bands put out. But
I just think each record we did Calling My Brothers was a collaboration of all the Europe stuff we did, and we were happy with that because we had played that stuff live, and we knew that people responded to that well, and we were stoked on those songs. Mm-hmm. And then Past Our Means, when we wrote that, we went in with a goal and a direction that we were going to make a more aggressive record. Mm-hmm. That was, we wanted to make faster, edgier, heavier. We wanted to make it, we didn't want to put out because a lot of those albums that were coming out on Rev at the time were like Sensefield and Farside and stuff like that was a little softer. So we wanted to make the Past Our Means almost harder than Call My Brothers, which felt like we did, and we accomplished what we wanted to do. Songs like Embrace, stuff like that were just like, they fit perfect. And Place Called Home, we went in and accomplished exactly what we wanted to do with that one. We wanted to make some more mature songs without losing any of the edge. Our Darkest Days, had a game plan of going everything. We had a game plan. This was the only album we didn't have a game plan really going into, of what we wanted to accomplish with the record. And so it feels more like a follow-up record rather than its own thing.
I think that's really fair to say. That's a really good way of looking at it. Okay.
So
yeah, coming off that, you do another Nations of Fire record, Violence, on Redfield Records. And this is kind of cool because you do a CD EP, and then it gets re-released on vinyl as a split with another band called Last Light.
Yep.
So it sees its vinyl release, but as a split. Kind of cool.
Yeah, we just the guys over in Europe, our good friends, had an idea to do it as a split, and we were all about it because it wasn't going to come out on vinyl, and all the dudes in the band are vinyl nerds, so we're like, just for our own personal collections, we wanted to have those songs on vinyl. So, and they did a great job picking the right band for that, and putting it out, pushing it, and a lot of people, we got a pretty good response from that one. So that was a lot of fun, that record too, because we self-recorded, produced that one up in Oregon at our guitar player Chris's house. He's got a studio there that we worked out of, and that was a lot of fun doing it completely ourselves.
And that's Chris Chassis of Reach the Sky fame. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, cool. We went through everything. I mean, we'll leave it on year 2020. Zoli leaves the band. We don't need to get into it. Maybe we'll do a follow-up at some point when you figure out how everything's going to go. But that's a pretty big thing. I don't know if you want to touch on it at all. You're welcome to, or we can just leave it as an asterisk.
Nothing really to touch on it at this time. I mean, it's still pretty new, and so we're just kind of figuring out everything out right now. So, that's about where we're at with that.
Cool. Yeah. Brett, you've been so generous with your time. I really appreciate you doing this, and thanks to Vogel for hooking it up.
Yeah, that's the man. I got a text from him. I was like, "Yeah, let's do this."
Yeah, I don't know if you knew how nerdy it was going to be, but that's what I like to do. I like to do that early deep dive. And I still have all that stuff pretty much in my head, and I got a decent memory for stuff when it comes to like the long term, like, how was this recording experience? How was this album? What was this day? What did we do on this tour? So, that played in well. Yeah, cool. I do need the drum machine demos. So the sooner you send them to me, the less you'll get punished.
I think I'm just going to have you punish me on that one, because I don't think anybody has those. I don't think anybody's ever heard those.
Oh my God. I got to hear them at some point, Brett.
Where do you live? Are you in California?
Yeah, I'm in San Diego. But
okay.
But we're quarantining. Hopefully by the time this comes out, maybe things will open up a little bit. And then
I'm sitting in my car right now at a park, and a bunch of people were here, parked like 2 or 3 spots away, like talking with each other. It was like this weird social gathering, and I just came over to look at this golf course to see if anybody had hopped the fence and was playing. Because I try and play golf at least once a week. I'm a pretty big golf fan, so I was like checking. So I was like, that's an interesting time, this 2020 coronavirus quarantine thing.
Yeah,
hopefully it passes.
Yeah, hopefully. Soon. Yeah. So thanks so much for doing this, Brett. I got to ask, do you feel like you've been well represented?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I enjoy going back sometimes and opening up those chapters and stuff and kind of reliving that stuff, because I think it's good to keep that stuff kind of fresh.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Awesome.
And I'll,
Take care, bud.
all right. Goodbye.